What's up, everybody? Welcome to Gamescast now, episode 97, topic 3. I'm Alex. This is our conversational gaming show, a show that airs every other week, Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday. The days of this week are a little bit off for the show. But in this topic, it's the third topic of the episode, and that means it's time to talk about what makes a game an amazing game. Now, I wanted to do something pretty different for this video, and different as in literally the same, if that makes any sense. Back in the day, back when we first started Gamescast, now, Nick and I started up this topic as well. I think we did it every single episode. We had 5 topics a week, actually, and we did it for topic 5. And that was, again, back like 2.5, almost 3 years ago. We had significantly less people watching, and I did a video, or my game that I chose. We would go back and forth picking a game, and I chose Prototype. And I said, what makes Prototype an amazing game? And, again, back then, we just didn't have the people watching, so I wanted to do it again. I want to talk about Prototype again and kind of give my updated, love of this game and do it in the format that we do Gamescast right now. And because, again, I think we're just going to get more people that would watch it now than watched it almost 3 years ago. So Prototype will always hold a very, very, very special place in my heart, and honestly will. It's one of, I truly do think, my favorite games ever. Now, the actual game, the actual video game Prototype, is it that good? No, it's actually not. Prototype 1 and Prototype 2, I think, are still above average games, but there are quite a few problems with it. But what makes it so special to me is really the history that goes behind it in terms of like my life with it. Prototype was a game that Tyler, co-owner of Podcast Now, 1 year, I think on like a 4th of July, I think the year before, he showed me the trailer for Prototype, and it was the first time I saw it. And it, that whole CG trailer with him in like the white hoodie, and it looked amazing. It looked absolutely amazing. And he talked to me, and he told me, this was a very, very long time ago. This was like 2008. So this was, almost 12 years ago. And he talked to me about what this game was. And at the time, I did not have a current gen console, so to speak. I only had a Wii. That's it. And I had a PS2. But I really, I didn't play games all that much, but I did play them a decent amount. And PS3 or Prototype, obviously this came out on more than just PS3, but this was the game that pushed me to get a next generation, or for me a next generation, but like the current gen console at the time. It then led to a long debate of PS3 or Xbox 360, and I went back and forth on it, and eventually I settled on PS3. So really, without Prototype, I mean, obviously I think I eventually would have gotten a console, one of them, but without Prototype in that moment, I would not have gone out to get the console. Once I knew Prototype existed, I remember just saving up money from every special occasion. And then June of 2009, I believe is when Prototype came out. I had money. I saved up. Me, just in general, I save up my money. That's just kind of what I do. But we bought the PS3, like a bundle that came with MotorStorm, and also came with Resistance, the first Resistance. And then Prototype is the first game I bought separate. I bought that day one when Prototype came out, and I played it day one when Prototype came out. And again, the game itself, was special, I'd say. I think the game is better than a lot of people will say it is. I remember back then, if you guys remember Prototype in general, same time, I believe it came out 1 month after Infamous. The first Infamous came out in May, I believe, of 2009. So it came out right after the first Infamous, and there were loads of videos. IGN even made a video of like which one's better, Infamous or Prototype. And I remember saying back then, I remember being like, Prototype's 10,000 miles better. That is just an absolute lie. Nowadays, Infamous is by far a better game. Back then, my judgment was clouded because it was the first game, and this is why. If you look back at it now, the game actually looks pretty bad. And even back then, the pop-ins, they're like literally the game appearing to you as you went, because it was it was open world, and you had to collect some, those collectibles that were like orbs. Some of those orbs would pop in like 10 feet from them. You'd have to get insanely close to them. I remember having to look up the map, look up guides to find them because I wanted to platinum it. I actually did platinum it eventually. I platinum Prototype 2 as well. And, the game had a lot of issues. Graphically, it was pretty bad. But back in 2009, back when I first played it, it was amazing. It was the first game on that console that I ever played. And even like a game like Resistance, that game like blew my mind too, how good that game looked. And that game came out in 2006, right? But I got it in the bundle for that. MotorStorm, same thing, was like 2006, 2007. So, even those games looked amazing to me. And it's funny because really looking back on it, I would have been blown. Like Uncharted 2 came out in the summer of 2009, the same summer as Prototype. So if I would have just played any other game, and I jumped into Uncharted super, super late. I jumped into it right before Uncharted 3. If I would have played that, I would have been like, wow, Prototype. But back then, 2009, that was 10 years ago. I was 12, 13 years old. Or I was just about to turn 13. I got Green Day Rock Band, I think, like the following. So like, my standards, my expectations for games weren't very high. I didn't really care how they looked. I just wanted them to be fun. And Prototype, at the end of the day, was fun. That is basically what that game was just a pure blast. I mean, obviously, the violence and all the stuff that you could do in the game with the different kind of like morphings and the different weaponry that Alex Mercer could have. And I thought he was actually a pretty decent character. I know a lot of people very much did not like him. I liked him. I despise what they did to him for the second game. And this will always be, it's just that. It's a special, special franchise to me. Prototype 2 is a whole different story as well. And I would 100% sign up for a Prototype 3. I know that franchise is long gone, and the odds of it coming back aren't extremely high, but isn't like, it's not for sure that it would never come back. But Prototype, to me, first game I ever played on PS3, at the time was the reason that I got a PS3 or a current gen console. And then the game itself was just so much fun. I mean, I played it. I remember having a lot of problems actually figuring out how to work the PS3. I had to like download. The game wouldn't actually download or work for me. I remember texting Tyler and being like, what's going on? And I had to download anything from the PlayStation Store in order to get my PlayStation to recognize like a game. And I don't know if that was just a thing for PlayStation 3 and I just didn't know that. But I had to download, I believe I downloaded like a Lord of the Rings demo. And I had to download that first. And then after that was downloaded, then Prototype worked. It took me almost a full day to actually get into Prototype. So even getting into it was tough. But then when I played it, I was like, wow, this is what current gen looks. And for the most, and the cutscenes looked really, really good. So it's not like the game just looked absolutely awful. The game looks decent, I would say. But the cutscenes look, I'd say, above average. And the story and what is actually going, like the premise of Prototype is very, very cool. And again, the stuff that you get to do in it, the kind of different challenges, and they expanded upon it for Prototype 2. But just a very, very special game. One of the most special games to me, a game that I would routinely, I haven't gone back and played it actually in a very long time, but I've beaten this game 10, 11, 12 times. My friend Nick, my friend Pat, they both have had this game. I believe I got this game first, and I played it, and then they saw it, and then they both got it, and they love this game too. Nick and I have a bond over this game as well. Very, very special, and again, while not like the best game, is the game itself all that amazing? No, but it will always be one of the most special games to me. It, with PS5 being backwards compatible and stuff, I would, if I find that, I think I do have Prototype for the PS3 in terms like a box with an actual disc, I would 100% play that on PS5. That's a game that I could definitely always go back and play just because it is so special to me. But guys, let me know in the comments below, what are your memories with Prototype? Do you guys remember it? Did you play it? Prototype 2? Any of those things, let me know in the comments below. Make sure you guys subscribe to our YouTube channel podcast. Now hit that bell icon so you guys know when these videos go up. And thank you, as always, for watching. I hope to see you all on the next episode of Gamescast now.